Hey everybody, Backpack Hack here coming at you with another trail tip, and today I'm going to be talking about the do's and don'ts of what you do and don't do when you deploy your get home bag. This is one of my two get home bags. I've got two vehicles, so I've got a get home bag in each one of them. Now a lot of people think, well, it's pretty simple. You got a get home bag, something happens, you put it on, you start making tracks for home. That may not be necessarily the best course of action. First off, number one, you want to respond to the situation, not react. A lot of people think those means the same thing, but there's a very fine difference between the two. A reaction simply means that it is a negative or a controversial course of action that you're going to take. A response, however, is you take the available information to you and make an informed decision as what the best course of action is. The best example I can give to you to this is, let's say you're certified in CPR, and if you are, good, and if you aren't, you may want to consider it. But let's say you're certified in CPR, and you're in a group of people and all of a sudden somebody just collapses. Do you immediately start chest compressions? Do you immediately do mouth to mouth? No. You determine that person whether their heart is still beating or not. You take a pulse. You look at them and determine whether they're still breathing on their own. And based on that information, you respond with the proper course of action. You just don't do one thing because something has happened. You get information and you learn from that and you go to the next course, you take the next step, and based on the information, that's how you determine what's best. So just because you have a get-home bag doesn't mean you strap it on and start walking home. That may be the worst thing you could do. It might be that spending the night in your vehicle might be a better option and things will be better tomorrow. Number two, open up your bag and familiarize yourself with the contents. Now, I understand that there's going to be some situations where you need to grab it and go, but most of the time that's not going to apply. You're going to have a little bit of time to spend, like I said before, contemplating what you're doing. So when you have that time, go through your bag and familiarize yourself with the contents. Maybe you put this bag together so long ago you've forgotten what's in it. Maybe there's something that you thought about putting in here but never have, or there's something that you put in here that you've forgotten about, or something that was in here and you took out to use somewhere, or somebody took it out to use somewhere and never got it back. So by taking inventory, you know precisely what you have. Instead of trying to go by your memory, you actually take inventory of what you have in the bag. So go through, take an inventory, that way you start out with full knowledge of what you've got to work with.
Wednesday night, mostly cloudy, low in the lower 30s. Thursday, partly sunny, high in the lower 40s.
Number three, turn on your radio for weather and news alerts. That's right, you should have a radio in your bag, right? So, turn it on. Find out really what's going on. Don't rely on one source of news. If you're just getting updates from an app on your phone, from a local news station, turn on the radio. Try to find other sources of information to let you know what's actually going on. Having that information both in terms of the news and the activities and what's going on in the world as well as your weather, those are going to be valuable assets to you as you continue down the road. Number four, putting the pack on and heading home may not be your best course of action. As I alluded to in the beginning of the video, maybe staying put is going to be a better option. Now, obviously, if you're on a very remote country road and your car's just skidded off into the ditch, you've got a vehicle that runs, you're just stuck. And you've got an engine that'll keep you warm in the winter. Staying in your vehicle is probably your best course of action. I would wait a long time before I actually took off on foot in that case. But the conditions may be that staying with your vehicle is your best course of action. Getting home on foot may be your best course of action. Again, take that information. For instance, are the circumstances and the weather that you're in right at the moment, they may dictate a different course of action than what you had thought about. For instance, let's say you live way north of the Mason-Dixon line. It's the middle of January. It's 4 in the afternoon. You've got a 10-mile hike home or 10-hour hike home, and it's going to be below freezing tonight. Do you really want to be out at 3 o'clock in the morning in the dark walking through sub-freezing weather? That may not be the best course of action. You may find it better to stay in your vehicle, spend the night in your vehicle, and then strike out at first light. Conversely, if it's the middle of summer, it's going to be 100 degrees, it's 9 o'clock in the morning when whatever occurs happens, and you've got your 10-hour hike home. Do you really want to be hiking home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in 100-degree weather? No, you'd probably be better off staying with your vehicle or staying in place, and then at the cool of the evening, take advantage of the cooler evening to head home. Number 5, plan your route. Don't just default to taking the same route that you would go if you were in your vehicle. If you're on foot and everybody's in the same situation, let's say this is a disaster where everybody is walking, they're going to take the same route they would drive home. And that means everybody's going to take the main roads, the main thoroughfares, the main highways, the main streets, and those are going to be congested. So that's not only a congestion issue for you, but it's also a safety issue. Everybody's going to see this pack and think he might have something in there. So get away from the crowds, find an alternate way. Can you take like a bike trail or an off-road trail, go through some neighborhoods that you may have a through street, but because it's a residential neighborhood, the speed limit's 25, most people won't drive it. So by cutting through these neighborhoods, are there bike trails, like I said? How about railroad tracks? I know people are going to say railroad tracks, that's trespassing, but in an emergency situation, if you can cut a corner through a railroad track, that may be a better option if the railroad track is at a diagonal to all the streets. Instead of going up and over, you can go straight across. So plan a route and also have multiple routes available to you. Think, well, I'm going to go to here, and if I can't go this way, I can go this way. Have that in your mind. Don't have to stop and think about all the time which way you're going to go. As you're walking, stop and think, if I get to this point and I can't go the way I want, what's my best course of action? Always be coming up with a plan B. Plan your route. Number 6, decide where your best destination is going to be. We call them get home bag, but home may not necessarily be the best option for where we're at and our situation. In other words, if you live here and you work here and this incident happens where you're here, well, if you've got a key to work, maybe getting to work is your best option. If you can get inside the building, you've got the key and the security code for the alarm system or what have you, that may be your best option. It may be a member of your mutual aid group. It may be a friend or a relative or somebody you go to church with. Home may not necessarily be your best choice. It may be a rally point where somebody in your mutual aid group, you have decided to get together to help each other get through the crisis. Home is not necessarily the only option. Number 7, determine how long it's going to take you to get from where you're at to your destination. Can you do this in one day? Can you do it in one stretch? If it's just a few miles, maybe you can do that. But if you're talking 40, 50, 60 miles, that's probably going to include an overnight stay somewhere. So are you prepared for that? Do you have a shelter? Do you have a sleeping bag? Do you have what you need to spend the night in the situation you're going to find yourself in to be able to spend that night comfortably and safely? Number 8, scout your surrounding area for any usable assets. Now, I'm not going to get into too much detail because there's too many possibilities here. But let's say you've determined that putting your pack on and getting home is your best course of action. But still, take some time and look around you. Is there anything that you can take advantage of while you're still here? In other words, let's say you're in a building and there's a vending machine there. The power is still on. You've got some pocket change. Put some of that change in and get something that can help you. Now, I realize the candy bar isn't the most nutritious and the most filling, but it is energy. So that's just one example. If the power was down and there's a real serious emergency, I would have no problem busting the glass out of a vending machine and helping myself to the contents. I know a lot of people are going to scream about that. Well, that's theft. Well, if it's a life and death situation, I don't think anybody's holding that against you. So again, scout your surrounding area for valuable assets you can use. Number 9, consume any food that you might have available to you before departing. In other words, let's say you bring your lunch to work. The event that you need to react to or respond to, respond to happens in the morning and you haven't had time to consume that meal. Consume it before you leave, and that way you're going to have the energy starting into your system and it will start to kick in as you're on the road. And you'll have that energy available. Don't wait until you're hungry before you eat it. Go ahead and eat it now. Now, I'm not saying gorge yourself, stuff yourself to the point like you're going to vomit, but consume the food that's available to you, just like the water, so you can start out with as much energy as you can inside of your system. Number 10, if you have a restroom available to you before you take off on foot, stop and use it, even if you have to force yourself. I mean, there's no reason to get 2-3 miles down the road and suddenly have to use the restroom. So stop and use the restroom before you take off. Number 11, drink as much water as you can before you hit the road. That's right. Drink either the water you have, or better yet, if there is water available to you where you're at. Let's say the water's still on, it's probably potable, you don't need to drink it. You can get a little water out of that faucet, drink it. That way you're not hitting the road already dehydrated. Hydrate yourself as much as possible before you take off. Number 12, change your clothes. If you work in an office environment where you have to dress up, you have to wear dress shirts, dress pants, wear a dress or a skirt, you wear dress shoes. Those are not the kind of clothing that you want to walk home in or get to your destination in. That should be part of your get home strategy, is to have a change of clothes available to you somewhere, if nothing else in your vehicle. Go out to your vehicle, if nothing else, put on a good, comfortable pair of shoes. I can't imagine walking home in a pair of dress shoes, let alone dress pants or dress shirt. I would want something more comfortable, warmer, drier, more durable than a dress shirt and a pair of dress sandals, something you'd wear to a wedding or a bar mitzvah or something like that. You definitely don't want to be wearing that kind of clothes. You want good, durable, warm, dry, comfortable clothes that will get you through the emergency, whatever it may be. So change those clothes. And last but not least, this is strictly a suggestion. Take a pep pill and take a pain pill, because most people are not used to walking long distances, let alone walking a long distance with weight on their back. So they're going to be in pain and they're going to run out of energy real fast. So by taking a caffeine pill and taking an aspirin before you depart can help alleviate those problems, and that way you don't have to stop and take them on the road. They're already starting into your system. So they can help alleviate that pain and give you that energy of the caffeine pill. Now, there are downsides to taking any medication. I'll leave it up to you to determine what the best course of action for you is. But my plan is I have 2 small pill bottles right here on my pack. So if I actually have to deploy this and start walking home, I can pull the water bottle out and take a caffeine pill and take an Advil. And I've got those in my system before I even start out. And there you have over 12 ideas of what to do and what not to do when it comes to time to deploying your get home bag. Now, a lot of these ideas will apply to a bug out bag if you have them. And there are a lot of things I've talked about apply to my bug out bag. I'm not saying you have to do all these, and I'm not saying don't do any of these. But take them into consideration. You know, you make the decision of which ones apply the best to you. That's all I'm trying to do, is to get you rolling on this idea. This is not a comprehensive list, by the way, either. There's going to be other things that I hadn't thought of that maybe you have. And if you do, put it in the comments below. So with that, I'm going to wrap this video up. This is Backpack Hack coming at you with this trail tip. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share my videos. Be safe out there, and I'll see you out on the trail.